This week we talk about some of that CES. Sonos is beefing with Google now, and Ring has some security issues. But you know what we gotta do together as a people? We gotta check it out. Welcome to another sensational Saturday. This is Mike, and this is Mike Texts It Out, the #1 news show on my channel, and the only one where I bring you the tech news. Now, I'm not going to cover everything from CES this week because there's a lot of stuff and most of it's prototypes, so I'm going to cover a few things that I found interesting. But before I even hop into the CES stuff, let's talk about what else happened this week. And in our first story, Ring, owned by Amazon, the security company, they revealed that in the last 4 years, they've had to terminate 4 employees for basically accessing consumers' footage outside of what's considered normal use. AKA, they were doing stuff shady. I don't know what they were looking for, but they said each time they received a complaint, they launched an investigation. Those investigations resulted in people being terminated because it was found that they were accessing the footage when they didn't need to. So these people did have access to the footage because it was part of their job. It's just that they were abusing that access, maybe trying to find information. Who knows what they were trying to do? But Ring basically said, yeah, we investigated and terminated them. So people are still doubty about Ring's security, like their own security, like if they're keeping our information secure. Or like I talked about last week, there's that lawsuit that person in Alabama brought up against Ring, saying that basically the breaches have been caused by Ring's failure to secure their devices and not because of users. So security-wise, everything's looking a little dowdy for Ring right now. I understand they're claiming that they're beefing up their security, but it would be good in the future if they're more transparent about this information when these things happen. And when it comes out like this, it does make them look bad. I'm not gonna lie. At least they did an investigation and they got rid of the people. Even though I doubt that was the only time that happened. That was the 4 times that they caught it. But we'll have to see what goes on with Ring from here. And it's not just Ring, it's a lot of these companies. They have all this consumer information now. But they've just been shown to kind of drop the ball in a lot of situations. I'm talking to you, Google. Even Apple. Y'all got caught up too. Amazon. Well, Amazon owns Ring. But still, all of y'all, get it together. So in our next story, popular speaker maker Sonos is going after Google. They're about to fight them, all right, for patent infringement. So if you're not familiar with Sonos, they make basically wireless speakers. They make smart speakers. They also make like sound bars, home entertainment speakers, and you can network them all together to have like a whole home audio experience. Now both Google and Amazon have done similar things with their speakers where you can network them together and have like a whole home audio experience. So that's basically what Sonos is coming after them for. They said that they infringed on their patent. The interesting thing about this is a lot of Sonos' smart speakers run Google Assistant. They run both Google Assistant and they run Amazon's Alexa. So who knows that the lawsuit will impact Sonos' ability to continue to use Google's AI for their speakers. Because it's a little weird that they're taking them to court and then they're also using their technology. So we'll have to see how it shakes out. They did mention that they would sue Amazon as well because Amazon is doing the same thing. They have their whole home speaker system to communicate with each other. But basically, the reason they said they're not suing them both at the same time is it will basically cost too much money to do it. So right now, they're suing Google first, and it's a possibility they might go after Amazon too. So it's a really weird thing considering that both of the companies that they use both of their smart assistants in their speakers. Not that saying that they need that necessarily. I mean, they do need one or the other for a smart speaker unless they want to team up with Apple and use Siri. But, I mean, HomeKit, it ain't popping like that. So, I don't know. I don't think that's going to work out for them. But still, it's interesting nonetheless. Alright, now hopping over to CES. I'm going to go over a few things that I thought were interesting. There's a lot of stuff at CES. I don't do CES coverage because I can't go to CES. Maybe in the future, when the channel gets bigger, I would love to go. But I have to watch from the outside just like the rest of you. And the first thing that I saw that was piquing my eye is the Galaxy S10 Lite and the Note 10 Lite. So Samsung announced 2 lower budget versions of those popular phones. The Galaxy Note 10 Lite is bringing back the headphone jack, the old school. The S10 Lite doesn't have that. And they did like a square camera array similar to what Apple and Google are doing on the back of the phone for their cameras. So design wise, it looks pretty cool. They haven't really gave pricing or many specs on the phone. Obviously, it's not going to be as fast as the flagships, but if they're significantly cheaper, this could introduce the Note to a whole new market. And speaking of that, it could possibly not even be for the US because they already have like a cheaper version of the Galaxy S10 here. So if it does come out in the US, it's going to be weird unless it's going to be cheaper than the Galaxy S10e. So we'll have to see what it is. I think the Note might be a more appealing product because the Note has always been like a higher end product. You can't get one for really under like $900 unless you get like a previous generation one. So them doing like a more budget friendly version of the Note, if they could bring that in like at $700 or under, that might appeal to a lot more people, especially because it still has the S Pen and a lot of people like using that stylus. So they didn't really give, like I said, they didn't give too many details about it, but I feel like the growth right now in smartphones is in the budget segment because, for one, people that buy these expensive phones, they're not upgrading every year, and two, a lot of the people just aren't buying them anymore. They want a cheaper phone because they're like, this thing might last me like 2 or 3 years and I'm buying a new one. I don't want to spend $1,000 every 2 or 3 years. So it makes sense that a lot of people are gravitating towards the cheaper phones. And of course, Google did their Pixel A phones last year, so they also entered the budget realm as well. So we'll see what they have to offer, but it's the fight is in that middle. It's not at the top anymore, and it's in that middle segment. And Samsung, they've been swinging hard for a while. They're just adding more stuff to the lineup. In our next story, Razer showed off a concept called the Razer Tomahawk at CES. This is a concept, so it may never actually come out. So we don't know, but it's basically the super small desktop PC where you can slot in your own graphics card. So it basically has 3 PCI Express lanes. So it has one for the graphics card, one for the NUC, or the next unit of computing, as what they're calling it right now. And that's basically a whole computer, motherboard, processor, RAM on one card as a PCI Express card. So you slot that in to one side, you slot your graphics card on the other side. It has a built-in power supply to connect power cables to your graphics card, and that powers everything else, of course. And then boom, that's it, and you have a full desktop computer experience, kind of. So the parts inside of the NUC are actually laptop parts, so it's going to be a laptop class processor and a laptop RAM. So it's not going to be as fast as the desktop counterparts, but you're still getting a full desktop graphics card. So if you're really interested in gaming, depending on the price of this might make a lot of sense to people as a replacement for a full desktop computer, especially if they want to save space or they travel a lot, but they don't want like a laptop gaming experience. They want something closer to a desktop, especially considering most games are more GPU intensive for the most part. There are some games that are more CPU intensive, so it might affect certain games. Like if you play like a lot of Civilization, the turns might take longer. But for the most part, if you're running a laptop class CPU and RAM and then a desktop GPU, you're probably going to get close to the same performance in most games than a traditional desktop PC. And the fact that it's so easy to just slot another graphics card in there and just slot the NUC unit in there, this could appeal to a lot of people, depending on the price. It really depends on the price. If this thing is like $2,000, which is a possibility that it could be, or above, then it's really going to become like a high-end niche market. If it's lower price, that'd be cool if they just offer the box by itself and then you buy the NUC and then your graphics card separately and kind of price it out that way. So we'll have to see what they do or if this actually even becomes a product, but I thought it was really cool. And our final story and final thing that I want to talk about from CES, of course, it's the Alienware UFO. So this is another concept that may never actually come out. So I'm just going to preface that. So don't get too excited about it, but Alienware had their concept, basically Nintendo Switch gaming PC called the UFO. That's what, it's a concept, so obviously if that came to market, that probably wouldn't be the name. But it's basically a bigger Nintendo Switch that plays PC games and runs Windows 10. So it looked really cool. It's big, like it looks like it's a lot bigger than the Switch. It's a lot bulkier, but you have a full gaming PC in there, so of course it's gonna be bigger. But it has the fold-out kickstand, and it's actually a sturdy-looking kickstand. The controllers pull off on the side, just like the Switch does, and then it had a connector to put them both together, like a middle rail that also charges the controllers. They basically did their own spin on the Nintendo Switch hardware with Windows 10 running. They had a few games running up there just to kind of show that, yeah, it can play games. So this is something that I hope they come out with. I don't think that if it does come out, I don't think it's really competing for the same space as the Nintendo Switch. I can tell you right now that if this comes out, it's going to be a lot more expensive than the Switch. You can tell by the build quality, and then the fact that it has to render full PC games, and it also has to run Windows. So from a hardware perspective, and the fact that they have to shrink it down, I don't see this thing being under like $800 if it's a real product, let's say. So I feel like this is going to be more so competing against like maybe like mid-tier laptops, like gaming laptops, as an alternative. It's not really competing against the Switch. The Switch is lower cost, and then also Nintendo has their first-party games. It's not like Alienware is making their own games for this thing. It's literally just a computer with the Switch hardware. So it's different, and I thought it looked cool. I mean, if it comes out, if it becomes a real product, I'm definitely interested in getting one. The other thing you have to worry about, of course, would be battery life, because it is a smaller PC. So if this thing becomes real, what's the battery gonna be like? Is it gonna be like 2 hours and then you dead? So that's a concern. The other thing is the screen. It's a good size for a handheld, but when it comes to looking at Windows, like the taskbar and icons and all that stuff, they kind of have to deal with the shrunken down Windows UI on that screen. And is it really gonna be usable if this comes out as a laptop or a tablet device, considering how small the screen is? So those are my things that kind of stuck out, but this was a really cool concept, and I really hope it does come to market, because I'll take it in any form. I don't care if Windows sucks on it. If it can play PC games, and I can load up my Steam library up there, I'm all in. I'm all in on that UFO. Speaking of all in, I'm all out of news for this week, so I'll be back next week. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and always do at least 2 things at the same time. We out.